Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, are you a peak performer? Do you know what a peak performer actually is and how to become one? Listen to this episode with my friend Christopher. He's going to be dropping some golden nuggets on how you can become a top performer and a peak performer. Christopher, what's up, my brother?
Richard, my brother, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. I truly love your vibe from the get, even before we hit record over here. I know we're going to have a great conversation and just give massive value to your audience about how to become a peak performing individual in every area of their life. So definitely looking forward to jumping in.
You know, I love everything you do. Since we got connected, I've followed you everywhere. I've studied you. And a lot of peak performers, they'll talk about being a peak performance in business or sport, but they neglect a lot of the home stuff. Yes. You know, like I had David Meltzer on, and he said, yeah, you know, at age 34, I had to bankrupt my business and lose $100 million. He said, because my priorities weren't right. But now he says, now that my priorities are right, my business is worth $20 billion. So talk to us about, first of all, where you come from, where'd you grow up, and how'd you become the man that you are today?
Okay. So two huge questions. Let me go with the order you gave it for. First of all, let's talk about the last aspect of when people perceive high performance. They talk about in the business sense or the athletic self, but they don't talk about the personal development side or the family side. And you kind of gave an example of David Meltzer over here with the first time that he did his business side, and he wasn't correlating it properly, the balance within his life. And then now he's doing it with a better balance. He's succeeding. I love that you highlighted that, brother, because truly what I believe, if you're not taking care of the individual, the person, from starting the moment that you wake up, from what time you wake up, how do you go to bed, what are your habits, your rituals, so on and so forth, you're leaving opportunities on the table within your business, within your athletic career, and within your family life. So people look at just one side usually, but they don't understand the whole spectrum of it. And if you're taking care of yourself with the proper diets, with the proper sleeping habits, with the proper rituals, then you'll be able to succeed at a very high level. So that's just one little take in that regard, and we'll unpack that so much more. And kind of a bit of background on me, Richard, you kind of asked it over here. If you permit, I'm going to kind of take it back from when I was 8 years old and diagnosed with dyslexia. So for people who don't know what dyslexia is, it's a learning disability that has to do with reading and writing. So at a very young age, my parents noticed that I had certain difficulties in school and I wasn't able to read at the same level as my peers. And they were seeing that I was putting the effort, but just wasn't connecting. It wasn't clicking in that regards. So they got me tested, and finally at 8 years old, got diagnosed with dyslexia. Then afterwards was able to go to the specialized school in the greater region of Montreal, Canada, where I'm from, and which is called Vanguard. And they taught me the proper way to really learn how to learn. What was the tools and methodologies that I needed to learn with my learning method. As I went to the high school and developed that, I realized that, oh, okay, this is just a different form of learning, not necessarily disability. So then I started understanding that a bit more, being comfortable with dyslexia. And then from there, afterwards, I was like, okay, cool. What do I want to do after high school, right? Like everybody at the end of high school, you're kind of looking at what I want to do as a career. And the thing that kind of came into my light and what intrigued me is I want to be a lawyer. I'm like, oh yeah, I like wearing nice suits. I like talking. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be great. As I studied a bit more about the field of lawyer, I realized that 95% of the job is reading and writing. Being dyslexic, I'm like, no, that's not what I want to do. Let me find a career that doesn't have a lot of reading and writing. So what I found is actually fireman. I'm like, oh my God, the fire truck, the boys, the adrenaline. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do. As I went into that and went into the academy, got the degrees and so on, and started working at Pratt & Whitney Canada, which is a company that does airplane motors, and I was becoming an industrial fireman, I realized that I wasn't living my true purpose. There was something else for me. Like the universe had put me on this planet for something else. And I remember when I was young, the teachers used to come into the classroom and say, kids pitch stuff in teams that even before she finished the word 3, I had my head up and I was looking for who reads the best, who writes the best. Let me put a team together and delegate the work. That's delegation 101, entrepreneurship. I realized that, oh my God, I was meant to be an entrepreneur. I remember in college when I used to fail, I used to go see the professor and used to be like, oh no, that's not what I meant. This is what I meant. I used to negotiate my grade up, negotiation 101. So from that point on, I realized I need to be an entrepreneur. So I went into becoming a real estate broker. got into that industry, and started succeeding quite well. Now, granted, for anybody that's an entrepreneur knows that it takes a little while. The first year and a half, literally, I paid to be a real estate broker. It was definitely difficult, but at a certain point, started succeeding. And then from that point on, I got a call from a speech therapist that used to follow me in high school to talk to me about a property that she wanted to sell. After a few minutes, she's like, Chris, how's it going with you? And as you guys are seeing, I could definitely go on rants. So I went on a solid rant saying, oh my God, it's going great. I'm in my early 20s, the money, the car, the house, whatever success is in air quotes, as society presents it, I had it at that point. And she's like, Chris, I'm the keynote speaker at this event put together by the Learning Disability Institute of Quebec. I would love for you to come and be a speaker and tell us how you are succeeding as a dyslexic entrepreneur. I'm like, beautiful. And I'm almost done my story here, but it's kind of going to give you the whole aspect of where we're at with how I became a professional speaker. So the same evening, Richard, she wrote me an email in the subject saying, Chris, I don't think you should do this speech because there's still a lot of negative misconception of what is dyslexia, and you might lose some potential clients. Now, I knew she was coming from a place of love, but I wrote an email saying, hey, I'll call you Monday to let you know that actually I should do this speech, and I'll let you know why. Monday, I'll give her a call. I'm like, Bridget, listen, if I'm not doing this speech, I'm not helping the kids that are on the school benches right now. I'm not helping the next generation, and I'm not helping my future kids because this is something hereditary. I would be fake. I'm not fake. I need to do this speech. And she's like, oh my God, absolutely 100%. I agree with you. I just want it to come from you. I'm like, beautiful. All right, cool. We'll kind of make this happen. I'm like, how many people are going to be at this event? She's like, oh, about 200. I'm like, all right, cool. Now listen, I did not know what I was getting myself into, Richard. I've never done a speech in that regard or none of that. I got ready for it though. The day of the event, I opened the door, I look left and right, and there isn't 200 people. It's more like 1,000 people. Now my heart is like beating. I am sweating. I'm like, oh my God, what the heck did I get myself into over here? It's kind of like scary. And then I go on stage, and then from that moment on, I realized that's what I'm meant to do. Go on stage, teach others, support in that regards. And that's how my speaking career and coaching career really took off. And then from there, I left everything that I'd built in my brokerage company and went into 100% speaking and coaching. Everybody around me thought I was crazy. They're like, what are you doing? You're going to become a successful broker. You're well on your way with that. And you're going into industry that you don't know. So that's kind of like the backstory in certain regards of how I became a professional speaker and a coach.
All right. So as you see, I'm writing stuff down. I have a traumatic brain injury. So if I don't write stuff down, I'm going to forget. So just something I want to really get into. First of all, learning. I only have a 9th grade education, formal education, but I've read over 6,000 books. And I find there's all different types of learning. For me, if I see something in a book and try to go do it, I'm never going to do it. But if you show me, I can do it. So talk to us about, because I had severe ADHD, that's why I left school. But talk to us about how some people that are listening to this feel bad about that they have a different way of learning, but it's okay.
Okay. So Richard, I love that you're alluding to that. And as well, I have ADHD as well, because usually learning disabilities don't come just with one thing. They come with several things, and that's a part of it. Honestly, right now, unfortunately, our education system is not built to accommodate everybody. It's just what it is, right? It's built to accommodate a certain people that fit in that box, right? Like back in the day, it was to make workers to go work in the plants and so on and so forth. So once you stand out from that, like you said, maybe you have ADHD, maybe you're active, maybe you can't necessarily learn from somebody telling you, but you're more kinesthetic, such as yourself, Richard. You need to try it, touch it, understand it, then it goes in your mind. All this, it shows that all you need to do as an individual is understand how you learn. Once you understand what's the best way for me to consume information, for me to digest that information, and then for me to implement that information, then you are going to succeed. And that could be through many different vehicles. It could be through reading a book, audiobook, podcast. It could be through getting a coach, getting an accountability partner, testing it, being kinesthetic. So the best thing is understand that if there's only one way that's getting taught to you and it's not working for you in that regards, there's many other vehicles for you to go potentially learn. So it's not just this one way that's kind of being taught to us. So you shouldn't feel bad. If you have that curiosity of learning, all you have to do is learn how to learn, which I believe is something that should be taught in our education system more than teaching us necessarily the specific things. You need to teach us how to learn, because that's the base of the foundation. And then once you know how to learn, then you go with what your interest is. If you're interested in tech, you're going to go learn about tech. If you're interested about art, go learn about art. If you're interested about mechanics, go learn about mechanics. But at least you know how to learn and how to consume information for yourself in itself. So that's the way I would speak about it. You shouldn't feel bad. There isn't no right or wrong. Every single individual is unique in themselves. All you need is massive clarity in how you learn.
Yep. And one thing that my friend Russell Brunson talks about, he taught me, to get the audio book of something, but also get the physical book and go along with it. Because, there's something different about reading. And then when you get the audio at the same time, it's kind of like you get double the punch, and that works for me. Another question I have, as we talked earlier, a lot of people that are watching today are veterans, and they're getting out and becoming entrepreneurs. And a lot of us, when we get out of the military, we don't have anywhere to go. We don't have a mission. We don't have a job. We don't have money coming in. So a lot of us struggle with that. But you mentioned something earlier that you've pivoted 3 or 4 times. So talk about sometimes like getting out of the military or, retiring from football or baseball. Sometimes you have to pivot into something totally different that's not even involved in what you were doing.
Okay. So great question, Richard. So let's talk about pivoting, right? As an art form, as an approach. So if you're somebody that, like you said, you're a vet, you finished your service and you gave so much of your time, passion, like legit, sometimes, a part of your health. And then you're like, okay, I'm still very young. What am I going to do for the rest of my life? It's a very daunting and big question. The best way to go about this, and this is for, like I said, anybody that wants to pivot, a young student as well, is to really take time to really look into yourself and understand what are your passions, what drives you, what are certain things that you like. Are there certain things that are a passion that are linked up with finances that could actually become sustainable for a business? Is it something that's just a passion project? Understand what you truly love. And in the beginning, I would invite you to try many things. Because to know about one thing or to think about you like something is one thing, but to actually go into it and do it, try it. You're going to find out, hey, I like this. I don't like this. Oh, I like this job. I don't like that job. As you're kind of doing this time of testing, almost kind of like, I would call it like dating your potential future career, you're going to have to try it out. Once you see that, hey, there's something I like more in this end, really go harder on that. And now the best way to go about that is linked up with your passion. Now, the reason why I'm going to correlate it to my story over here, that I left brokerage, which I truly loved brokerage. I loved real estate. But once I tasted being on stage and helping other people in a systematic way that's changing their lives compared to helping them move from one house to another, grow their investment, which is a great way in itself, is that the other one superseded. Me being a speaker superseded that passion for me and gave that aspect of me helping even more than being a broker. They're both amazing for me, but one was a bit more. So once you find a thing that is linked up with your passion, you're going to succeed so much more. So the pivot aspect, first and foremost, if you're coming out and you're kind of at in between, allow yourself to be in between. Allow yourself to be a bit worried about what's the next move. Take time in that moment. And the way to go about it is practice or do different things to find the proper direction of, oh yeah, I like this, I don't like that. And then once you find your true passion, that's what you want to do, then go into building that career hard within that. And that's a whole other subject. But the first thing is try many things until you find your passion. Try to pick as much as possible a passion-driven approach, because things will get hard as entrepreneurs. It's not going to always be easy. Like there's going to be a lot of things that are going to come in your way. Granted, sometimes we look at the social world and we look at entrepreneurs and it looks pretty and aesthetic, but that's only 1% of the time. There's a lot of grind. There's a lot of difficulties to get to that point. And the only way you're going to get to those successful points, which is finances, authority, growth in business, is through having that massive passion and purpose of what you're doing is why you're doing it, and always relating it back to that.
I love it. Before we get on to the next thing, I want to thank our sponsors. Guys, thank you. Our book hit #1 twice on Amazon in the addiction space. The book is not only my story, but it's also a teaching story. And the last 2 chapters are, what does addiction look like? Not what you think it looks like. And what does depression look like? and not what you think it looks like. So definitely check out the book. I'll drop the link. It's on Amazon. And it may just save a life if you pick this book up. And also, if you guys love what we're doing, if you love StreamYard, you want to start your own show, I'm going to drop a link below. They're going to let you start it for free. So check out that in the pages. So now something you mentioned earlier, because I'm a big ritual guy. I love rituals. And that's why I love Ed Milet. I love David Goggins. They talk about rituals. And I believe, like in the book Atomic Habits, that you are your rituals, and that what we do, our habits dictate 40 to 60% of our day, every day. And I believe our evening rituals and our morning rituals dictate our whole day. So talk to us about peak performers and rituals.
Okay. So I love that. We could definitely geek out about this. And that's something I truly go hard in. And you're absolutely right. Everything you do on a daily basis is ritually based. And the only way you're going to change that is by changing the ritual. And the rituals get changed either to a good ritual or a bad ritual. It gets replaced, right? So you are doing things ritually. It's either a bad ritual that you have, which is, imagine you're going up and you're in bed and you're looking at Netflix when you fall asleep, or the first thing you see when you wake up is your phone. That's a ritual. Good or bad, it's a ritual. Towards compared to, you wake up at X amount of time in the morning, first thing you do is meditate, look time to connect, gratitude. That's a ritual, right? So the basis of human experience is through ritual. Our Homo sapien bodies evolved through ritual-based approach. So if you want to be a highly successful person, they have several things in common, okay? And I'm going to say you the top three. Number one is massive clarity. They know exactly who they are, what their strengths are, who they are as a person, what they need to work on. Number two is they're extremely passionate, almost to an obsessive sense, to the work that they're doing. And then number three is they have proper systems and processes in place in their personal life and in their business to succeed, aka rituals. So if we unpack rituals, and Richard, if you permit, I'm actually going to just tell you what my morning and evening rituals are, just to give a framework of what I suggest in that regards. And this is things that I do with my top tier C-suite one-on-one coaching client. So I wake up every single day at 4 a.m., every single day, Monday to Friday. Let me be specific here, working days. So at 4 a.m., I wake up. After I wake up, after I make my bed, I go meditate anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes, which is just a scanning meditation of Vipassana meditation, which is the teaching of Buddha. After that, I do a couple of stretches because I'm somebody that works out quite intensely in CrossFit. So I do a couple of stretches to see where my physical body's at, if there's certain still have parts of it that's a bit more tweaked. Do I have to be more aware of this? Am I injured here? So on and so forth. So I do a scan of that while I'm doing some stretching movements in that regards. Then I go into my home office. Once I'm there, I look at my affirmations. So I try to reframe my state and my story instantly, even before I sit down and do anything. So I'm looking at my affirmations, my I ams. What's my goal for the year? I'm reading this out. I'm creating a certain energetic field around me in regards to positioning myself in the proper state. Then I sit down and I go in my business journal and I write 3 things that I'm grateful for. What are my gratitude? Write those things down. And I write it, be grateful for it. Then I look at my agenda because my agenda is pretty crazy. It's pretty back to back with meetings, clients, speaking events, great podcasts such as this over here with you, Richard. And I set my intention for every single activity. Now, why do I do that? Because highly successful people set their intention not only once a year and they call it a New Year's resolution, they set it for every single activity. So for me, because my day's really full, I don't have necessarily time sometimes right after a meeting to set my intention for the next one. So I set it even before the day starts. So then my subconscious mind and reticular activating system, which is the part of my brain that filters out the information that I want, is able to target it. So if I'm speaking to a prospective client, I'm speaking differently. What's the goal of that? Is it to potentially sign them as a client? When I'm speaking to a current client, what's the goal towards that? When I'm on this podcast, what was my goal? So before my day started, I'm like, hey, I just want to be so intensely connected in the moment. So when I'm with Richard, I'm connected and I'm just giving the most value possible for Richard and the community. I set that even before. So then that's happening. And once that's done, I set that up and I look at what are my top 3 goals for the day. Nothing big, just my top 3. Then I go into my hour of mastermind. Now, this is a moment that my brainwaves are specifically high and are extremely creative and they're more effective. So that's the moment that I utilize to do creative work. So I'm not doing any emails. I'm not responding to my colleagues, my employees. I'm not doing any of that. I'm not on socials. All I am doing is creative work. So either I'm creating a workshop that I'm working on, a speech that I'm working on, a class, an online class for my academy, whatever the case is, or I'm educating myself on something specific. So it's really creative time. Then after that, we're around 5:45. Then I head out to the gym. Like I said, I do CrossFit about an hour from 6 to 7, do hard CrossFit, come back, read a bit. My reading in the morning is something that's cerebral, something that demands a bit more cerebral effect of it. And we'll talk about the reading in a bit as well, because I do know that, Richard, you read a lot. And then from there, I start off my day, get my shower, start off my day, usually 8:39. I'm in the office. My first client usually starts at that point. So that's my morning ritual. Now let's talk about the evening, okay? Because the evening is super, super indicative for you to be successful in the morning, right? Because if you wake up at 4 a.m., I'm going to bed at 8. For me to go to bed at 8, at 7 p.m. max, there's no more screen time. So my computer, I'm not looking at it, not looking at the phone, not looking at TV, whatever the case is. Now, the reason why that is because these screens emit a blue light. Blue light affects your level of serotonin and melatonin. Serotonin is the hormone that secretes when sunlight hits you. It wakes you up. And melatonin gets increased when the sunlight goes down, and that's what makes you sleep. Now, Richard, have you ever had a situation that you're kind of like binging on Netflix and it's like 2 a.m. and you want to watch the next episode, but you're so tired, but you keep on watching and you're kind of like in this zombie state? Has that ever happened to you?
Oh yeah, and but especially with a lot of people, for me, I used to watch a lot of stuff on Netflix, and then I would dream about it all night because that was what was in my subconscious. So I'm not
Okay.
really getting great sleep because I'm dreaming
Okay.
about zombies and stuff in my head.
So, Rich, you got some 2 points. So, first of all, that has happened, and that's happened to everyone. It happened to me too. That zombie state. That's what's happening when you are emitting blue light so significantly. Your body is naturally trying to fall asleep, but you're hitting blue light, so it's affecting you. So, by doing that, the last hour of my day, not allowing myself to do that, my body's winding down naturally. So, at that point, either I'm reading, either I'm sitting outside of the balcony, I'm doing something relaxing so I could diminish that cognitive pressure and just diminish that whole unnatural light hitting me. So then the last 30 minutes, I'm usually starting my meditation, once again, 15 minutes or so. And then I'm in bed anywhere between 7:45, 7:50-ish, and then go doze off until 8. So that's my evening routine. That's the way I structure it. And before structuring my breakdown, obviously before the end of the day, I always analyze what I did well, what was my victories, and what are things I need to optimize for the next day. And I write my goals down for the next day. They're always written down the previous day. Why is that? You alluded to it, Richard. When we go to bed, our subconscious mind is at work. People think, oh my God, I'm wasting time when I'm sleeping. No. It's probably one of the most valuable times, okay? If not, the world or the universe, the creator, God, whatever we want to call it, wouldn't create it that we're almost sleeping 1/3 of our lives. There's a reason for that. That's the moment that we are recuperating. That's the moment that we are fixing injuries. That's the moment that everything you've learned, and it's in your prefrontal cortex when you're learning something new, goes to your basal ganglia, which becomes an actual part of your brain that you're going to remember it. That process happens in your sleep. So if you are thinking about things that are not necessarily good while you're falling asleep, towards just thinking about, oh my God, the end of the month, the money, the struggle, this, that, and the other, you're going to have negative things getting posted in your subconscious mind. Towards if you're thinking about positive things while you're falling asleep, or even visualizing your goals, which I have a whole workshop on that, on how to go about it and create it, then you start reacting and building that in your reality, because your subconscious mind does not know the difference between reality and fiction. He will create the fiction into reality. So that's why, Richard, as you mentioned, when you go to bed and you're watching something like, let's say, I don't know, murder mystery, you might have a bad time sleeping because you're having this negative enforce of information while you're going to sleep, when your brain is extremely open to information, because you're in the alpha and theta wave, which is directly correlated from your conscious mind to your subconscious mind.
Now, one thing I wanted to hit on, like I wrote a couple things down. I love Mr. Ed Milet, one of the greatest people that I know. But he always talks about the reticular activating system, your RAS system. And as I was coming here, I was driving, and I'm listening to Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and it's amazing how him and Mr. Carnegie were talking about the RAS without talking about it in 1905, 1906. And a lot of people don't know what the hell an RAS is, even though everybody has it. So talk about the RAS.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. We're not reinventing the wheel. This is information that's been passed down and passed down. It's very valuable that it should be passed down, right? And like you said, this is something that Napoleon Hill was talking about in the early 1900s. And it's something that's getting represented by Tony Robbins and Milet, and named them. You had David Meltzer on the show. We talk about this because it needs to be heard, right? And for you to succeed as a high performer, you have to understand the biochemistry of your brain and body. And that's where my expertise comes into play, because I studied like crazy. And like you mentioned, what is the RAS, right? So the RAS, the reticular activating system, the best way I could explain it and correlate it is it's the filter to your mind, okay? It's the filter to your brain. Now, Richard, within a moment in time that we're looking at things, let's say you're walking down the street, or even right now you're in front of your laptop or wherever you are, you see millions and millions of elements, right? You might be seeing right now your laptop. You might be seeing a dude with a suit going off. You might be seeing your daughter walk into the room. You might be seeing your, posters, whatever the case is. The thing is, your brain doesn't have the capacity to assimilate all that information. It's too much. So whatever it catches, the million elements that it catches, it gets filtered through your RAS, your reticular activating system, and it gives you the information that he thinks is pertinent to you. Now, this is where it becomes important. Now, to do so, let me give you an analogy. Rich, have you ever bought a car before?
Oh yeah, I buy whenever I buy my new vehicle, the RAS is all over it.
So the RAS is all over. You know where I'm going with this, right? So maybe it took you, I don't know, a couple of months to study what car you want, what mark, what engine. Maybe it took you a couple of weeks, a couple of days, whatever the case is. But you're like studying this car, right? What leather inside, what horsepower. You're like geeking out. And then you decide, okay, I'm going to pick this exact car. You go to the dealership, you pick it up, you're happy like anybody, get into that car like a 5-year-old kid in a candy store, you drive off, and then the first red light you hit, you notice that exact same car on the other street. You're like, oh, that's weird. I've never noticed it before. You go a bit further, and then you notice another car, exactly the same, but a different color. You're like, oh my God, what's happening here? I thought it was going to be unique. And you go a bit further on that same drive, and you notice another one. And what's happening here? Those cars have always been around you, Richard. What the difference is that for so long you were thinking about it, that the reticular activating system noticed that, oh, this is important for Richard. So every time he spots it, he's like, hey, Richard, check out this car. Hey, Richard, check out this car. It's able to spot it out. Where does this correlate for people that want to succeed in entrepreneurship or in life in general and become a high performer? You have to be very aware of what you are feeding yourself, what information you're consuming, because it will spot you a certain direction. So if you're consuming negative information, you're only going to see negative. You're only going to see failure. You're only going to see fear and danger, because that is out there. That's not out there. It really is. But if you're someone that consumes positivity, opportunities, whatever, success, you're going to see those. So where somebody's seeing a problem, you might be seeing an opportunity for growth. When somebody's seeing something like, oh my God, that's a failure, you might be seeing as, oh, how to make this into a success. So you have to be very aware of what you are planting in your subconscious mind. So your reticular activating system could direct towards it. So if you're saying, you know what, my goal this year is to be a professional speaker. My goal this year is to have X amount of kids. My goal this year is to start my business. So throughout your whole time of your life living it, your reticular activating system is guiding you towards that direction. If you want to be a speaker, every time that, subconsciously hear somebody's talking about a potential speech, you go towards that conversation. If you want to be in a relationship, every time there's a potential of a relationship, you go towards that. That happens through planting the proper seeds in your subconscious mind and really activating those on a consistent and daily basis.
And one thing I wanted to hit on is my friend Steve D. Sims wrote a book called Blue Fishing. And he said when he was younger and he was a 16-year-old bricklayer, he would go to these high-end car places, go in and sit in the cars, smell the leather, touch it. Even though he couldn't afford it, he got the sense, okay, it was in my hands. So now my RAS is going to start working for me. So I think that's something that what you're talking about, right?
Richard, I mean, do you permit actually I give like a really tangible tactic over here, because we're talking about kind of like the visualizing and the RAS, but I want to give a tangible way to go about it, because you just gave a great example with the car, the leather, sitting down and smelling. Okay. So this is something that I give to my clients and we work on, and it just truly works. So like I mentioned, okay, your subconscious mind is everything that creates your fiction into reality. For you to do so, there's a specific time within the day and a specific way to communicate that information to go from your to your conscious to your subconscious mind. And this is something that I call your bedtime movie visualization. Okay. And this has created everything in my life, from my success with my business to my going overseas, traveling and speaking on stages in front of thousands of people, to everything that I have. This is the way to look at it. Now, first and foremost, before going to actual steps that I'm going to give you, I want to tell you a bit more about the subconscious and conscious mind. To understand how the conscious mind works, you have to look at it as the gardener and the subconscious mind as the earth. The conscious mind plants the seed in the subconscious mind, which is the earth. And the conscious mind waters it, gives it the vitamins, lets it have the sun, and it grows. Now, the subconscious mind doesn't care what you plant. You could plant a beautiful apple tree and it'll give you abundance of apple and shades. Just like you could plant a poisonous oak tree and it'll give you that poisonous oak with the same amount of abundance. So the subconscious mind doesn't care what you plant, it will give it to you in abundance. The conscious mind is the one that needs to plant. Now, the conscious mind is anywhere between 10 to 5% of your mind. 90 to 95% is your subconscious mind. Now, the question is, how do we go about planting that seed in a proper way so you could have that beautiful apple tree instead of that poisonous oak tree? To do so, you have to understand there's 5 different brain waves, okay? The first brain wave is your gamma wave. Gamma wave is a very fast wave. That happens when you have that aha moment, when you're like, oh my God, I just had that idea. Then you go into the beta wave. The beta wave is in the awakened state. So you and me, Richard, right now, and everybody is listening, we're pretty much in our beta wave. So we're awake, we're active. Then you go into your alpha wave. Alpha wave is a more relaxed wave. Like after you're done work, maybe you're chilling down, having a glass of wine with your loved one, maybe reading a book, you're relaxing. Then you go into your theta wave. Theta wave is even more relaxed. Maybe you're meditating, you're going from consciousness to falling asleep. You're like in that in between. And then you go into delta, which is completely, you're knocked out and you're sleeping. Now, if you understood this concept, you know that you go to minimum through these waves twice a day, right? When you wake up and when you go to bed, right? And once again. Now, why am I talking about this? As I previously alluded to on the conversation here, the direct correlation between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind happens in your alpha and theta waves, which is the waves of when you are super relaxed, when you are calm, right before you're falling asleep. That's why, Richard, you explained so eloquently, sometimes when you watch something while you're falling asleep, you have a bad night's sleep. You have a nightmare. It's not a recuperative sleep. Towards when you're super happy, everything's great, you're having a better light sleep. Now, what's happening is that you're planting your seed. So what I'm going to invite everybody to do here is this activity that I call the movie visualization. I think about 3 specific categories when I fall asleep, okay? The first category that I want you to start creating a movie for, and I'm going to tell you how to guys to do it in a second here, is your physical health and your mental health. First one. Second category is your connection, love, and family. The third one is your financial abundance, your career, and beyond. So you have 3 categories. Now I want you to create a movie for each category. So I don't want you just to think about a picture, but I want you to act it out like you're living it. Like the example that you gave with the car, all right? So imagine there's one for the abundance and the career. Imagine it's your friend that said, hey, I want this specific car. Okay, I don't want you just to think about the car. I want you to imagine yourself going into the car, putting your hands on the steering wheel, smelling how the leather is going to smell, that fresh leather smell, feeling how it's going to feel when it's around your hand, feeling the car going into drive, and then adding the emotion. This is where it's extremely important. People talk about visualization, but they don't talk about the emotion. Your subconscious mind understands the emotion so much more than the actual action. So it's how do you feel in that moment? When you're in the car, it's maybe a car that you've been working your whole life to get. So are you proud? Are you happy? Are you joyful? And you're attaching those emotions. So then your subconscious mind can understand what's the emotions. So if you do this on a regular basis as you're falling asleep, instead of thinking about X, Y, and Z, instead of scrolling on your social, you're essentially creating your reality in the future and in your present with the co-creator. And this sounds a bit woo-woo. This is not just woo-woo. This is scientifically backed. Go check it out. Go study everything I just said with the conscious and subconscious mind. Go even study quantum physics, and you'll understand to a high level that these aspects of visualization are extremely important. And you talked about Think and Grow Rich, right? Why do you think the book is not called Do and Grow Rich? It says Think and Grow Rich. They understood it back then too. There was a huge process, and it talks about it within the book too. You have to visualize it. You have to create it. Now, granted, in this whole world of law of attraction that we're talking about, there's the word action. I'm not just saying sit down on the couch and visualize it and do nothing. No. It's both. You sit about it, you visualize it, then you get up and you take actions. You need to do those calls. You need to knock on a door, knock on a door. You need to network with somebody, network with somebody. Well, once you do both at the same time, you're taking action, intense action with intention, not intent, sorry, with intention, and you're visualizing it, you can hit it out of the ballpark a lot sooner than you think. So that's the way to go about really restructuring your subconscious mind and putting the proper information that you need.
And I love that. And I got a couple more things. I know you let me know when we got to roll, we'll roll out. But, you know, one thing that David talked about was gratitude and anger can't occupy the same space at the same time. And I think the more I go to bed, I say 3 things I'm grateful for. Before I roll out of the bed in the morning, I say 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I think gratitude, I think the most successful people in life, whether they could be millionaires or they could be school teachers, is gratitude is what actually helps them stay there. You know what I mean?
100%, Richard. And I swear to God, like, listen, I'm blessed to be in a position that I coach top tier CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, top tier entrepreneurs, and so on. And you'd be surprised. A lot of people have the ideology, oh, I want to make a lot of money, I'll be happy. But a lot of people are the opposite. Happiness starts within, and it starts right now. So you have to be aware of that. And how do you go through that? Is through gratitude. Like you said, everybody has something to be blessed about, and more than one. You have to highlight it. And all of this, life is a matter of perspective. If you have a negative perspective on it, you're just going to see the negative. If you have the perspective of, I don't have enough, I'm succeeding, but I'm not yet a billionaire, there's always another level. But if you look at it, what do I have right now in this present time, and have gratitude for it, like you mentioned, it's physically impossible to be angry and grateful at the same time. It's 2 contradicting emotions. It's physically impossible. So once you're in that state of gratitude, you succeed much more, because then you're going to have more to be grateful for, because the universe is going to send you more because you're in that state of gratitude.
Okay, so something else you mentioned is talking about presence, being present in whatever you do. Like when I'm talking to you, I'm focused on you. I'm not focused on the TV. I'm not focused on anything else. But I just got back from a 13-day reset with my family. And I actually, every morsel that went in my mouth, I enjoyed it. Every moment, no matter what I was doing, I was in that moment. So talk about, you know, because I don't know somebody who said it, I don't remember who it says, yesterday doesn't exist and tomorrow doesn't exist. Only today, the present, is what actually exists. Yes. So talk about a little bit about being present and, you know, not worried about giving your family the presents, but giving them your presence.
Okay. I love this. I love this conversation, because this is a huge part of high performance in itself. Okay. And once again, just because I'm a geek of brain science and the whole understanding the body and utilizing it for your competitive advantage, we have to understand the brain. Okay. The brain does not want you to be in the present moment. Why? This is because it's the only moment your brain cannot control. It could control the past. And that kind of doesn't make sense if you look at it. Because like, hey, wait a minute, the past already happened. Yeah, but how many times have you thought of the past and your brain can maneuver certain aspects of it, embellish certain things, so it has a certain control. So it likes thinking about the past. It likes thinking about the future, because the future is 100% something that the brain controls. Negative or positive, he has control. But to be in the present moment right now, your brain has no control and it freaks out. Your brain has one job. Through the evolution of our Homo sapien species, it had only one job, and it still has that one job, is to keep us alive. That's it. That's all. Our brain is not here to make us happy, to make us abundant, to make us fulfilled, to make us grateful. No, it doesn't care about that. It cares about one thing, to keep us alive. So if you understand how the brain works, then you understand the nuances of how to utilize it. So if you understand that the brain only works on keeping us alive, certain opportunities that come up that might look as scary, and it's like, oh my God, wait a minute, Chris, you might die because it's dangerous. It's going to push you towards it. It's going to push you away from it. So for you to really disassociate yourself with that, you have to be in that present moment. And when you're in that present moment, you have 100% control of what's happening, because you're acting it out. So that's extremely important to understand that dichotomy between the past, the future, and the present. Now, the best way to go about it is in percentages, right? You can't just always be 100% in the present moment, right? Because you need to learn from the past, because you've done mistakes, you've done some success you learn from, and you need to be planning in the future, right? The previous thing that I just said with visualizing was 100% in the future, but we're correlating it. So what I would suggest is I'm anywhere between like 10% of the time in the past, because I still learn from it. I analyze it. I am 20% in the future, because I visualize, I create, but I try to be 70% in the present. And that's where it becomes the thing you need to do. So yes, I'm going to become one of the greatest keynote speakers of our modern time. I know this. I'm going to have a company with hundreds of employees. I know this. But right now is, what do I need to do today to get me one step closer? And I'm not saying it's going to happen, the other goals, but I'm positioning myself in something that I can control right now today that might give me the possibility to be one of the best speakers in the world, to have 100 plus employees. So what do you need to do today? So that's the way to kind of correlate it and be present. One. Second thing, if you want to be highly successful, you have to be acting in the present moment, because it's going to get you in a state of flow. So a state of flow is something that was presented or popularized by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, which he's a researcher, a scientist, in regards to understanding how certain people get things done easier than other people. A state of flow, the best way I could correlate it is when an athlete says, oh my God, I was in the zone. Like I was taking a shot like Kobe Bryant. I was taking every single shot. Everything was going in. I scored 84 points and it was so easy for me. Like it was crazy. That's a state of flow. But a state of flow is not just for athletes or people that do extreme things. It's for everybody, especially entrepreneurs. You have to understand how to get in that state of flow. When you get in that state of flow, it's just 100% in that present moment. And when you're in that present moment, you are 500% more effective, more creative, and more efficient than when you're not in that state of flow. So imagine you as an entrepreneur. Monday, you start working, you're in that state of flow for the whole day. You could literally take off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and be at the same level as somebody that worked all those days and wasn't in a state of flow. So once you understand that correlation, you understand how being in the present moment is so much more important. So maybe you're not with your kids right now. You're doing your work. You concentrate on your work. But when you're with your family, work is not there. It's you're with your kids. You're on your 4 knees playing with your kids. When you're having a conversation with your wife, you're having that conversation. When you're having a podcast, you're on a podcast. That's the difference between somebody achieving extremely high levels in success in life, not only in one industry or in one aspect, but in every aspect of their life. It's how they're intentional about it and how they are just so connected with that present moment. It's not about the time you're spending, but it's about the intention of that time and how present you are within that time in itself.
Okay, so something I want to hit on real quick. I'm a big Kobe guy. I'm a Lakers fan since the 70s. And I love the book by Mr. Tim Grover, talks about the winning, and he talks about Kobe's mindset. Kobe had the mindset. He talked a lot of self-talk, but he even talked about, even after he played Michael Jordan, 3 o'clock in the morning, he's calling Michael, how'd you do it? What'd you do? How did you beat me? How'd you score on me? Why did you score on me? So I think a lot of people get so, I love self-talk, but a lot of people get so wrapped up in the self-talk that they forget to reach out to the people like Jordan, their mentors. So talk please a little bit about self-talk and also mentorship.
Okay. I love this. Richard, you're just teeing me off. You're like pressing all my buttons of the things that I just truly love and passionate about. I'm going on rants here. But yeah, that is a great question. Okay. So let's break it up into, like you said, self-talk. Now, self-talk, there's actually studies done actually in your world, in the marine world, the people that succeed the most in like buds, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, which is one of the most difficult training methods to get through to really become a bud. They don't necessarily succeed if they're the most athletic, if they were like, a top tier NCAA player or whatever. The people that succeed the most are the people that are able to have self-talk and encourage themselves because they're getting put like through difficult moments. So self-talk is extremely important because there's people encouraging, but if you're not able to encourage yourself, it's going to be very difficult for you to continue because like I mentioned, we're kind of putting this beautiful lens on entrepreneurship right now, but it gets really difficult. And the only person that's going to get you to that other end is you. And for you to do that is you're going to have the proper systems and processes in place within your life to encourage yourself to go to that next level. So one correlation that I do, like I said, I do CrossFit quite intensely, and I do, local competitions, just have fun with it. It's just a huge hobby of mine, and it keeps me in the right state of mind for everything else in my business. Well, there's certain WODs that I do, which is a workout of the day, that I need to literally talk to myself. I say out loud, Chris, you got this. Chris, you can do this. By you saying it out loud, it encourages you to succeed. And these are researches that have been mentioned in the book Grit by Angela Duckworth. These are things that have been tested, like I said, in the Army world. These are things you need to do. So self-talk is extremely important, right? Kobe Bryant, he talked to himself. Not only talked to himself, he created a mantra or a different type of personality, which is his Mamba mentality. And for him, he eloquently explained it in one of the interviews of correlating it to the movie Gladiator. And when the gladiator walks into the ring, he takes the earth, smells the earth, and just kind of puts it ear on the floor, and he knows that that's go time. He's triggering and anchoring moments of like, this is fighting time. This is me in the cage. This is me all X, Y, and Z. Once you understand these nuances, you're able to turn them on and off. So when I need to be that entrepreneur, when I have my suit on, I'm X, Y, and Z. When I'm spending time with my family, they don't need Christopher Dedeyan, the CEO. They need the Christopher Dedeyan, the son, the brother, the uncle. That's a different energy. So I'm able to self-talk myself to connect with each emotional state that I need for that activity in itself. So that's one thing. Second thing, coaching and mentoring. I mean, brother, you're talking about my world, right? Like I said, I'm a peak performance coach. Now, before talking about me being a coach, I have myself 8 coaches and mentors in different areas of my life. I have my head coach that he takes care of pretty much like everything, touches upon everything. Then I have my business coach. I have my speaking coach. I have my storytelling coach. I have my dietitian. I have my workout coach. I have my spiritual coach. So all aspects of my life that I want to evolve in, I have somebody that I could learn from, that it keeps me accountable and pushes me to that next level. So I truly believe in mentorship and coaching. It's really the only way that you really want to succeed in a fast way. I'm saying it's the only way if you want to succeed extremely fast. You want to cut that learning curve in half and compound it, that's the way. Because if not, you could do it by yourself and just learn from your mistakes, go forward X, Y, and Z. But you could do that as well as learn from other people's mistakes, learn from other people's expertise. Go with somebody that's maybe doesn't necessarily know everything, but maybe it's one chapter ahead of you in one specific field. And then like, all right, how did you do that? What was your blueprint? How did you get there? And then once you do that, it's so much easier. Now, another thing, you talked about Kobe calling up Michael, and he's like, hey, Mike, X, Y, and Z, how did you do it when you were on your left shoulder and you spin and you stepped away? How were you able to do that? And how come I wasn't able to defend, right? Now, in life, you have to look at yourself like you're the main actor of your life, right? You're on stage. You're the main actor. You have co-actors. You have repeating parts within your life. You have some people come in for a small season and then they leave. Now, at the same time that you're the main actor, you have to position yourself as the director and to stand and looking at the whole play. And that's really difficult to do. Because once you're acting it out, you're in it, you're there, your things are moving, you're there. Towards when you're in a position of director, you see the whole play fall out. And you're able to see, oh, wait a minute, there's maybe a blind spot there. Oh, wait a minute, I should maybe do this, do that. And the best way to go about that is position somebody else in that director position. And that's your mentor or your coach. Richard, you know how many times my coach has told me something to do something, and I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? And legit, I'm a coach. I freaking coach hundreds of people. I'm like, how come I didn't see it? It's because I'm living it. I'm way too close to it. So that's why you need that outside perspective. So when Kobe is calling up Michael and asking him how you did this, how he does that, it's because Michael is able to see from a different perspective how Kobe's defending him or how Kobe's playing when he's on the offense. So he's able to give him a nuance and tell him, do this, do that. When Michael was young in the league, he did the same thing towards when he used to speak with Charles Barkley. Not Charles Barkley, Charles Oakley, which was one of his teammates. When he used to speak with his peers, they used to give him a different perspective. It's all about perspective. So that's why mentoring and coaching is extremely important if you want to be a high achieving individual. Go ask anybody that you admire. They all have coaches. They all have mentors. Anybody that's on top of the game, you mentioned several of them, they all have coaches. They all coach. They all get coached.
All right, so last couple of things. I'm just having such a good time. I'm sorry. I'm really enjoying this conversation. One of my friends,
I'm here for you, man.
One of my friends, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about fuck what you're not good at and triple down on what you are good at. Yes. And I think, the people that are uber successful, they triple down on what they're great at. And you can also see when people start to fail is when they start to get that shiny object syndrome and think they can do it all. Like I was a big Ron Artest guy, but then he started to get into music and not focus on basketball. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, he's out of the league. He's done. So talk about that. Talking about, screw what you're not good at, triple down on where you are good at until you hit where you want to be.
Okay, that's interesting. So you mentioned Gary Vee with that ideology, and you mentioned Ron Artest and all that stuff. So we're going to correlate a lot of our stories with basketball here because we're kind of on that line. So I love that. So I truly believe in that statement as well. Okay, being dyslexic, that was something I had to figure out, because the reason why I didn't go into entrepreneurship, because I had a fear of reading. I rather literally go into a building that was on fire not to read. And I didn't understand that. I only figured it out a couple of years later when I was giving a speech talking about my journey. One of the attendees afterwards came up to me and they're like, "Hey, Chris, do you realize that you were so afraid of reading that you'd rather run into a building that's on fire?" And I hadn't seen it. I'm like, "Oh my God, you're absolutely right." Because I was so afraid of what I'm not good at. So then once I was able to shift it towards, hey, wait a minute, I have so many other skills. I have skills of communication, leadership, of entrepreneurship. Okay, yeah, I can't necessarily read very well, X, Y, and Z. I can't write very well. But I'm like, how can I do it to delegate that? So then I could really be great at what I do. So the first thing you have to understand is you have to be self-aware, massive clarity on your strengths, your weaknesses, and what are the things you need to optimize on. Once that is clear, start doing your thing. Now, in the beginning, you're going to be by yourself, right? So you probably need to do even the things that you're not that good at, but you're still going to get it done. As you evolve, then you start delegating. And now I'm saying in the beginning, even if you're a startup, there's so many tools out there nowadays that you could find like legit workers that are not that expensive. They're going to help you out with that thing. Go on Fiverr, go on Upworks. Like there's people that are giving to their time very affordably. So if you're not a good writer, get a copywriter. There is some around the world that's going to help you out with that. So that's one thing over there. So understand that and then work on your expertise. Now here, let's correlate it to a bit of the world of what you just mentioned in basketball. I truly believe anybody in this world could do whatever they want. Like I believe I could do anything I want in this world. But the reality is I can't do everything because you just have so much time within a day. You have a lifetime, right? And if you look at the research that was popularized by Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outlier, the 10,000 hour rule, right? To become a massive expert at something, you need approximately 10,000 hours or 10 years. How many things can you really become a master at? Maybe one, maybe two. If you're stupid talented, three, not more than that. Even three, I think we're stretching it. So the reality is you have to understand what is your one thing and go hard on that. And once you become such an expert at that, everything else will grow accordingly. You don't want to be that generalist, like let's say that general garagist in a corner of the road. You want to be that specialized garagist that's working for Mercedes and knows exactly that particular Mercedes. He's getting paid 3 times to what the other person, the generalist, is getting paid. So you want to be a massive expert at one thing. Now, once you become such an expert at that, once you become so good, then other experts will come and link up to you. So what you want to look at it is almost like kind of like a lane, right? You're driving on the highway. You focus on one lane. As your lane gets developed so much and you've done your 10,000 hours, you're an expert, then the lane becomes 2. But it's always correlated with what you're doing. So if I'm speaking and I'm phenomenal at it, then I can become a coach, which is very correlated. Then I could become on, let me go into opening up my academy. Okay, that's very correlated. We're still in personal development field. Let me write a book. Okay, that's very correlated. It's about personal development. And then you get the proper aspects. So talking about basketball, like I said, we're going to do an analogy here. LeBron James, he's always mentioned this. Remember the first thing. Remember what is first. LeBron James wouldn't be LeBron James, wouldn't be having these like multi-billion-dollar deals in Hollywood with Nike, with his own brands, if he wasn't a phenomenal basketball player. He understands that. Kobe understood that too. So if he's such a great basketball player, then there's somebody that comes in like, hey, you want to create a TV series or you want to create a entertainment network? All right, cool. This guy's going to come. He needs an expert in entertainment, and he's going to correlate it with LeBron James. LeBron James does so good at basketball. Nike comes about and is like, hey, you want to be a sponsor for us? Cool. You want to be a partner for us? Cool. This is what you're going to do. If LeBron James tries to become, like you said, like Ron Artest, a basketball player, a singer, a rapper, a cook, and just trying to go a bit everywhere, your focus is going to be off. He might be okay at most of them, but he's not going to be phenomenal at one. It's this obsessiveness. And that's what Kobe Bryant, which I know you mentioned that you like him a lot, did exactly that. He was hard on one thing. And then he's like, as soon as I'm retiring, I want to be thinking of like, I didn't leave anything on the table. And that's what he did. And then he's like, transition towards what? A storyteller. He was creating his company of writing the books, of how to create that, doing the movie. He won an Oscar, but that was correlating it. And he was already starting his next 10,000 hours. He was way beyond 10,000 hours in basketball, but that's all he was focused on. And then when the transition happened, he's like, what is next? Storytelling, which is essentially what I do in so many forms. My vehicle that I use is speaking. All I'm doing is storytelling. This whole podcast is what storytelling, right? So that's the way kind of I explain that aspect, Richard.
And I love that. And then my favorite basketball player of all time was Dennis Rodman, because he played defense, but he specialized in rebounding. He would spend hours just throwing the ball up to watch the trajectory of where the ball would go. So he spent his 10,000 hours doing something that nobody else was doing. So sometimes you might have to reinvent yourself or actually create something totally new like he did. So the last question I have for you, well, two questions is, I love this being a teaching podcast. Somebody walks away from this learning something. So if somebody's listening, they're like, okay, yeah, yada, yada, yada. But what can I take away from this? What are the top 3 things that I can do to become a top performer?
Okay. I love this. I alluded to it a bit early on in the podcast. So I'm just going to repeat over here and put some emphasis on it. 3 things. If you want to be a high performer, first and foremost, you have to have massive clarity. Okay. And that's a very scary place because you have to look yourself in the mirror, understand who you are, your difficulties, your weaknesses, your mistakes, have massive clarity of who you are. Okay. And that happens within. You go within to find that information towards meditating, praying, alone time. It's a dark place by yourself. That's the first thing, massive clarity. And then from there, like I said, you can find out your strengths, your weaknesses, and so on. Second thing is you're going to have something that you're massively passionate about. So what is driving you? What do you truly love? And then once you understand that that's the passion, you understand that that's where I want to go towards, look at it not in this specific sense. Like I have 4 pillars in my coaching ideology, and this is the 4th one, is understand that you have to create massive value, which is going to create massive impact. Then it's going to create massive income. As an entrepreneur, you have to understand that it's not just about making money. If you're thinking about it the other way around, you're not going to succeed. You have to bring of the idea of what value am I bringing to the marketplace? What impact is it creating? Then the money is going to follow. If you think about Steve Jobs creating these iPhones and these amazing products that we're using, he created, not thinking he wanted to be a billionaire, he created like, hey, what can I bring into this universe? And as he created this thing, as he's passionate about it, he created multi-million and billion-dollar industries with these one products. Then the income came and he became a billionaire. Yeah, he deserves it. And then the list could go on. Like we could talk about Elon, we could talk about Jeff Bezos, same concept. Massive value, impact, then income. So that's the second thing. Be passionate, understand you're bringing value, then you'll create impact, then it'll create income. And the third thing, we alluded to it as well, is you have to put proper systems and processes in place in your personal life and business, AKA habits and rituals. You have to have the proper habits and rituals. So if we have the understanding of who we are clear on that, we have the passionate thing, then we need to put systems and processes in place so that when days we don't feel like it, we're going to be able to still follow through on what we need to get done, and you're going to succeed overall. So recap, first and foremost, massive clarity. Number 2, be extremely passionate about what you're doing, bring back massive value. And number 3, create habits and rituals that are going to make you succeed in your personal life and in your business life.
So now the last question is, how do we find you? How do we support your mission? I love your website, by the way. It's very easy to use. It's very, even for a low-tech redneck like me, it's very easy to use. So how do we find you and how do we support your mission?
First of all, Richard, let me just say thank you very much for you and your community. This is a great conversation. Truly appreciate you. And congratulations on all your success, honestly, from the book that you mentioned early on to this podcast. Really, like, congratulations. Really something to tip my hat off in that regards. Yeah, so for people want to get more on me or want to figure out who I am, you can follow me on all social media at Christopher Dedeyan. My family name is spelled Dedyn, as you see it over here on the bottom screen. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, Instagram, my YouTube. I have a lot of lessons that I teach young entrepreneurs or anybody who wants to go to that next level, young or old. So you get some information there. If you are a top tier person that really wants to maybe need to come in and speak to your association, your team, your company, you could go ahead and check out our website, dedeyanenterprises.com. You could check out and see if there's a potential way we could collaborate in that regard. And if you want one-on-one coaching to go to that next level, don't hesitate at all to go on that website and connect with me and my team, and we'll see if you could be a potential fit in that regards for you to help you go to that next level.
I love it, brother. I'm so grateful and humbled for your friendship. Thank you so much for coming on. I've learned so much. I'm myself going to go back and listen to this 3 or 4 times. So I just want to say thank you, brother.
Love it, man. I love it. Thank you, Richard. Truly appreciate it.
All right, guys, like my t-shirt says, today I decide. Those are the 3 most important words in the English language, because you don't have to be the same person when you go to bed tonight as the same person that woke up this morning. It's your decision to change your life. So guys, if you love what you've seen, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave a comment below so Christopher knows that he was dropping serious knowledge bombs. I love you guys, and I will catch you tomorrow. Remember, vertical momentum, the only way to go is up. I love you, Christopher. Have an amazing week.
Likewise. Thank you very much, brother.